Takashi Sato sits in his classroom, lost in thought. He wonders why he isn't the happy, bright type like others. Instead, he feels like a shadow. His mind drifts to the next test, which will be about wide angles and how tired he feels. Suddenly, a girl appears behind him. With a lollipop in her mouth, she hugs him from behind. It's Anju, the gal who keeps teasing him no matter what. She notices that he's studying and says she'll reward him for working so hard. She then hands him her lollipop and asks if it's okay since she already ate part of it. Nervous, Sato says it's fine. As he watches Anju stretch, he thinks about how beautiful she is. Anju starts talking about a horror movie she watched. She says she couldn't sleep afterward, especially because of certain scenes. Seto thinks about how surprising it is that Anju can't handle horror movies. She finishes by saying that a scene where a couple played volleyball really well was fun to watch. She asks if all foreigners play like that, especially on the beach. Seto doesn't know how to answer. He's more impressed that they were playing volleyball on sand. Anju casually adds that, in the end, all the characters died anyway. Meanwhile, Sato can only think about whether Anju has ever played beach volleyball. She looks athletic, so she probably has. Noticing his curiosity, Anju asks if he's ever wanted to play beach volleyball and if he's inexperienced. Sato nervously tries to deny it, but it's useless. She already knows he doesn't even know how to play regular volleyball. She says she wouldn't mind playing with. Shocked, Sato asks if she's serious. She laughs. He then asks if she has experience too, saying it's unfair that only he's being exposed like this. Anju agrees and goes quiet for a moment. The silence makes Sato nervous. Then she says she'll answer honestly. She takes off her shoes and leans on the desk, saying she'll teach him how to play right now. Sato gets nervous, but Anju tells him to relax and close his eyes so he can focus on her explanation. He obeys, wondering if she really plans to teach him. When he opens his eyes, he sees Anju mocking him by making a fox shape with her hand. She bursts out laughing and says, her fox will teach him how to play. Sato yells at her to stop. At that moment, two girls enter the classroom. They sit down and start talking about the horror movie from the night before, laughing about it. Noticing Sato staring, Anju teases him again by making the fox shape with her hand. One of the girls asks why Anju came so early today. Anju replies that she was rewarding Sato for his hard work and asks if that's right. Sato confirms it. The girl asks what kind of reward it was, and Anju answers that it involved fox volleyball. Later, in the boys' bathroom, Sato scrubs a urinal. When he finishes, he celebrates that everything is finally clean. Suddenly, Anju appears behind him, saying it really is clean and praising him. Sato yells, asking what she's doing there. She says she thought he might be lonely. Sato realizes that the other boys already left because they found the cleaning bothersome. Feeling down, he looks away. Anju tries to cheer him up, saying she's impressed with how well he cleaned the urinal. Sato avoids her gaze, thinking that Anju is as beautiful as ever. He asks if she isn't embarrassed to be in the boys' bathroom. Anju says lots of students come in here to pass around test answers, usually in the last stall. She pinches Sato's nose and asks if he didn't know that. Suddenly, someone enters the bathroom. Sato panics and tells her to hide. Two boys come in and start using the urinals while chatting. Anju and Sato hide inside a stall. Sato is extremely nervous and thinks about how to escape, but Anju doesn't seem worried at all. The boys outside complain about how annoying school cleaning is and call anyone who takes it seriously an idiot. Inside the stall, Sato notices Anju's strong, sweet perfume. Suddenly, Anju lets out a high-pitched scream to scare the boys outside. They panic, wondering what's going on. Sato gets even more nervous as they question the noise. Anju casually asks Sato why they don't take this chance to exchange answers for the next test. Sato wonders what she means and whether it's really worth doing this here. Anju notices Sato's ears turning red and grabs them, saying they're soft. That's his weak spot. Sato lets out another loud scream, making the boys outside run away in panic. Laughing, Anju asks if that scream was because his ears are his weak point. Sato gets angry and says it's not funny. Teasing him, she says now she knows his weakness. She stretches and says it's time to run. Sato is confused, and she explains that it would be embarrassing to be caught with someone who screamed like that. She laughs and says she's joking, then grabs Sato's hand and pulls him out of the stall. They run out of the bathroom. Anju tells him to pull himself together. Sato watches her pulling him along and thinks about how amazing she is. He reminds her that his hands are dirty, and she casually says they can wash them. While washing up, Sato thinks about how incredible she is in so many ways. Anju adjusts Sato's glasses and asks how she looks. She comments that he has really bad eyesight. Sato asks for his glasses back. She teases him by holding up two fingers and asking how many he sees. Sato says he can see that easily up close. Disappointed, she says that's boring. He asks for his glasses again so he can study. She asks if he really needs them. He says yes. She questions whether he truly can't see well, then suddenly shows him something embarrassing. Sato gets startled and flustered. Laughing, Anju says he could clearly see that. Sato denies it, but he's still embarrassed. Later in the cafeteria, two boys talk about a new snack. Sato walks by carrying items in his arms while reading study flashcards. He notices Anju rinsing her mouth at a sink. She catches him looking and asks if he's studying again. Sato gets nervous as she approaches. She asks if he plans to eat alone again during break. Shy, Sato says it's fine and that he needs to study. Looking at the food he's carrying, Anju asks why he doesn't eat with her. Sato is left confused. The pair goes up to the school rooftop, where they can see the city below. Nervous, Takashi Seto asks if they are really on the rooftop. Excited, Anju says it's a forbidden place. Sato panics and says they shouldn't be there, but Anju laughs and says she often skips class here. She adds that she had been thinking about bringing him here for a while. Looking at Seto's food, she asks if that's all he's going to eat. She says that with so little food, he'll get too skinny. Sato replies that she's very thin too. Anju lifts her shirt slightly to look at her stomach and asks if he really thinks she's that skinny. They sit down to eat lunch. Sato gets nervous because Anju is always so bold. She offers him a meatball from her lunch and tells him to open his mouth as she moves closer with her fork. Sato tries to refuse, but she pushes the meatball into his mouth and tells him to just eat it. She asks if it's good, and Sato excitedly says yes. Anju proudly says she made her lunch herself. Sato is completely shocked. She asks why he reacted so strangely, and he says it's just because the meatball is really good. Anju says she's actually a great cook and added a secret ingredient. Curious, Sato asks what it is. She smiles and says the secret ingredient is her love for Sato. Sato becomes extremely nervous. Anju asks if that makes him happy, but he doesn't know how to respond. They finish their lunch in a good mood. Afterward, Anju leans back on the rooftop railing and suggests skipping class. Sato refuses and says he still needs to study. She calls him too serious. Sato wonders why she always acts this way while staring at her. Anju notices and asks what he's looking at. He apologizes, but she teases him again, asking if eating made him curious. She leans on him and suggests skipping class to do something more fun. When she puts her weight on him, they suddenly fall backward. Sato braces himself for a long fall, but there's another floor right behind the railing. They land safely on the lower rooftop floor. Anju laughs uncontrollably. Stressed, Sato tells her she shouldn't joke like that. She apologizes, still laughing, then says his hand on her arm is bothering her. Sato quickly pulls his hand away and apologizes, making her laugh even more. Looking into his eyes, Anju says it was scary but also kind of fun, and asks if he felt the same. Sato is left speechless. The school bell rings. Anju once again suggests skipping class. Later, near the lockers, a woman stops Sato and asks if he's heading home already. It's Kamaki, the school nurse. She hands him a bag and thanks him for lending her something. She looks at him quietly for a moment, then says he seems to be doing better lately, and tells him to be careful on his way home. Sato looks at the bag and wonders why she put what he lent her inside it. Suddenly, Anju appears from behind and startles him, asking what kind of suspicious exchange that was. She grabs his ears, and Sato complains, telling her to stop touching them. Anju asks if that wasn't the school nurse and opens the bag. Inside are several manga volumes. Laughing, she calls him such an otaku. Annoyed, Sato apologizes for liking manga. Anju asks why he's apologizing and says it's normal to like something. She asks why he lent them to Kamaki, and Sato explains that they have similar tastes. Smiling, Anju asks him to lend her manga too. Sato says those were advanced volumes, and he doesn't have the earlier ones with him. Anju suggests going to his house to get the right volumes. Sato panics, not used to having visitors. Since he refuses, Anju suggests going somewhere else instead. They go to a manga cafe. Sato looks around, wondering why he's even there. Soon Anju returns with 2 drinks and sits beside him. She says it's her first time at a manga cafe. Sato feels nervous being so close to her in the small space. Anju drinks her soda. To avoid staring, Sato drinks his too, but immediately spits it out and starts coughing. He asks what she put in it. Laughing, Anju says she mixed several sodas together. Shocked, Sato loudly says she still acts like a child. Someone knocks on the wall, telling them to be quiet. Fixing her hair, Anju asks if they're in trouble. Sato says the person is just annoyed. He then recommends some manga for her to read. Later, they lie on the couch reading. Anju is deeply into a romance manga and wonders why the characters don't just confess their feelings, since it could stop a war. Sato replies that confessing isn't that simple. She agrees. Sato stares at her until she suddenly calls his name. She asks who his favorite female character is. Nervous, Sato says it's the first girl introduced. Anju laughs and says he has terrible taste. After some time, Anju falls asleep on Sato's lap. He's shocked by how quickly she fell asleep. Nervous, he thinks only children sleep like that when tired. He softly calls her name. Someone knocks on the wall again, telling him to be quiet. Anju shifts in her sleep, still resting on him. Sato grows more anxious when she starts drooling and still won't wake up. He calls her again. A person appears over the partition wall, realizes she's asleep, and tells Sato to keep it down. As night falls, they head home. Anju apologizes for falling asleep. Sato says he's tired too. Getting close, she says it was a really fun afternoon and that they should do it again sometime. Sato quickly says there's no way he'll do it again. Later at school, Kamaki returns the manga to Sato, saying she already cried and is ready for the next volumes. Sato wonders how she read them so fast and realizes she's fallen in love with manga. One day, Anju arrives at school completely soaked from the rain. Sato asks if she's okay. Frustrated, she says the storm came out of nowhere and wrings out her clothes. Watching her, Sato worries that she might catch a cold. A loud thunderclap echoes through the air, startling Takashi Sato. When he looks at Anju, he sees that she's trembling in fear. He's shocked to realize that she's afraid of thunder. Anju grabs Sato by the collar and asks if there's a problem with that. Nervous, Sato quickly says no. In fact, he thinks that he likes seeing all sides of her. Sato then finds himself inside a lingerie store, wondering how things ended up like this. 15 minutes earlier, Sato was in the library picking out books to read. Suddenly, Anju appeared and pulled his cheek, saying he looked cute while reading. Flustered by her sudden appearance, Sato asked why she startled him like that. Anju asked if he didn't want to see her and said she was shocked because she had been happy to see him. Sato got confused, but Anju laughed and said she was just joking, tapping his nose. He thought about how she was clearly messing with him. Then she said that, even so, his words hurt her a little. As an apology, she told him to come with her to buy some things. Back in the lingerie store, Sato becomes very nervous. This wasn't the kind of shopping he expected. The girls around them stare at him, wondering why he's there. Anju holds up a piece of clothing and asks what he thinks. She points out some details, and Sato says it looks good, though he's clearly embarrassed. Anju looks at him and asks if this kind of shopping is boring for him. She then asks which outfit he thinks suits her best. She says she's fine with anything he chooses and even says she'll wear whatever he picks. Sato panics because he has no idea how to choose clothes. Feeling rushed, he randomly points at something. Anju smiles and says she'll try it on. While waiting outside the fitting room, Sato wonders if she might need help. The girls around him think he's acting strange. Suddenly, Anju appears and pulls him into the fitting room. She wants to show him the outfit and hear his honest opinion. Sato is completely flustered. Anju, however, is calm. She holds his face and tells him to really look. Sato nervously says the outfit is cute. She asks if she should buy it and comments that he probably likes it because it's practical and easy to wear. Overwhelmed, Sato suddenly shouts, drawing attention from the entire store. Later at school, Sato worries that he embarrassed Anju and doesn't know how to face her. Before he can finish worrying, Anju appears behind him and calls him a shy boy. She tells him she's already wearing her new outfit and says he's the first to know. She adds that it's their secret. Sato can't focus in class that day. A boy later confesses to Anju and asks her to go with him to graduation. She politely refuses. The boy leaves, heartbroken, comforted by his friends. Anju thinks that confessions shouldn't be done like that. She then notices someone sneaking away in the hallway. Thinking he might have seen something, she follows him. It turns out to be Sato, who says he was just delivering papers. She asks if he saw the confession. He says no, but gets nervous about lying. Anju says she can't wait any longer and asks him to come with her. They go to the science lab. Sato wonders what they're doing there. He asks if she's angry about him spying, but she says it's just a quiet place where people rarely come. She grabs a pair of scissors and says they should get started. Sato panics, afraid of what she'll do, and promises not to tell anyone anything. Anju looks confused and says she's not popular anyway. The boy who confessed was just annoying her. She tells Sato to forget about it and moves closer. Sato gets scared of the scissors again, but she reassures him, saying she has experience and won't hurt him. She tells him to stay still. Anju trims Sato's bangs, which had grown too long. She says he needs to take better care of his hair because hair health is important. She admits that messy hair bothers her a little. Sato shifts because it's uncomfortable, but she tells him to stay still. While cutting his hair, Anju talks about her dream of becoming a stylist. Her mother owns a salon, and she thinks it's really cool. She wants to be like her someday. She says she doesn't dislike confessions, but she doesn't have time for them right now. For now, she wants to focus on her goals. When she finishes, Sato looks in the mirror and says it looks much better, even though she only trimmed the ends. Anju feels proud of her work. Sato thinks it's interesting that she has clear dreams. He also realizes she isn't interested in dating right now. Even so, he thinks he wouldn't stand a chance anyway. Anju pinches his cheeks and asks if he likes it. Shy, Sato says yes. She pulls him out of the room and says they should have some fun. Wrapping her arm around him, she says the fun will be on him. Sato lets out a strange sound. Anju asks what's wrong, and he makes an excuse about hair getting into his shirt. Then Sato speaks honestly. He says she mentioned being too busy to date, yet she keeps teasing him. Smiling, Anju asks if that bothers him. He says no. He was just worried about her plans. Holding his arm, Anju explains that she didn't mean she has no time for fun. She wants to become a stylist, but she also wants to enjoy herself. She says she doesn't spend time on people who don't interest. Sato wonders if he's someone who interests her, since she keeps spending time with him. At that moment, Anju's friends arrive and say they're about to leave. Anju says that Sato is walking her home. Her friends decide to come along too. On the way home, everyone buys ice cream. Anju pays for Takashi Sato, and one of her friends comments that the two of them really get along well. Later, a cat slips out of Anju's hands and runs away. She looks disappointed because she wanted to catch it. Sato remembers something he saw on Twitter and says that you can communicate with cats just by blinking at them. Anju is shocked. She crouches down and tries it, blinking slowly to show the cat that she isn't an enemy. After a moment, the cat blinks back. Anju becomes extremely happy and hugs Sato, asking if he saw that. She excitedly says that telepathy worked, and now the cat knows she isn't dangerous. Sato thinks she's way too close, especially since she's clinging to his arm. Smiling, Anju says she can read his thoughts through telepathy. Sato gets nervous as the cat waits patiently for Anju to pet it. Inside the train, Sato starts thinking about how people have big or small problems, and this is one of his. Offering a seat to an elderly person is usually kind, but sometimes it can be seen as offensive. It's also embarrassing. Sato decides to stand up quietly without saying anything, pretending he's getting off at the next station so the elderly woman can take his seat without feeling awkward. He looks back, hoping his plan worked. Instead, he sees another man take the seat, leaving the elderly woman standing. Sato is left speechless. At school, Sato fills out his career plan form. The teacher reminds the class that it must be completed by the end of the day. During class, Sato can only think about the elderly woman who had to stand the entire train ride. A classmate, Inuyama, comes over and asks if Sato has a moment. He shows him a sculpture he made and proudly asks what he thinks. Sato feels awkward looking at the unusual piece, but he admits that Inuyama is good at crafts and that it suits him. Inuyama sits next to Sato and asks if he still hasn't filled out his career plan properly. He says Sato should just write what he wants to do. Sato admits that what he wrote might cause trouble. Inuyama then says he plans to attend art school to become a sculptor. However, Inuyama quickly changes the topic and asks something more interesting. What kind of relationship Sato has with Anju? Sato becomes defensive. Inuyama asks if they went on a date, but Sato denies it and says they have no relationship at all. Inuyama grabs Sato's shoulders and tells him to seize life's opportunities. He asks if Sato is close to Anju and whether he likes her. Sato denies everything. Inuyama says he prefers Toyota among their classmates because she's the prettiest, but then admits that Kamaki might actually be even more beautiful. Sato asks why they're having such a strange conversation and tells Inuyama not to judge women by appearance. Inuyama starts saying that Anju isn't that special if you think about it. Suddenly, Anju appears at the top of the stairs and asks what they're saying about her. Trying to change the subject, Inuyama says that Sato just said she's really beautiful. Anju walks up to Sato, straightens his shirt, and asks if that's true. Sato turns shy and can't answer. Anju pinches his nose and says she's just joking. She flicks Inuyama on the forehead and says she knows Sato well enough to know he'd never admit something like that. She waves goodbye and walks away, leaving both boys holding their noses. Inuyama gets angry that Sato didn't take the chance to tell Anju she's beautiful. Sato gets frustrated with it. Later, inside a crowded train, Sato is pressed against the door. He thinks about how Inuyama talks too much and keeps exposing him. Suddenly, Sato notices something disturbing. A man is standing far too close to a girl. Sato realizes the situation is dangerous and thinks he should act, but he's afraid. What could he even do? Then the girl crouches down to pick something up, creating a small opening. Sato thinks he can't just stand by anymore and steps forward. As soon as he does, the girl notices him and suddenly grabs him. She shouts that he touched her and calls him a pervert in front of everyone. Sato is frozen in shock. At the station, the girl clings to Sato's arm and screams for someone to stop him. Sato tries to explain, but a man restrains him and forces him to his knees. The man asks the girl if she's sure it was Sato. Panicking, Sato says it's a misunderstanding, but people are already staring and filming. He thinks his life is over, that he'll be expelled, shown on TV, and abandoned. Meanwhile, the real molester notices the chaos and tries to sneak away. Before he can escape, someone calls out, It's Anju. She delivers a powerful kick, knocking the man to the ground. Sato is shocked. The man yells in pain, asking why she did that. Anju looks confused for a moment, then declares that she's stopping a cruel man and says she saw everything. Two other passengers confirm they witnessed it too. Anju crouches in front of the man and asks if he has anything to say. He begs for forgiveness. The girl from the train realizes her mistake and feels deeply embarrassed for accusing Sato. Sato tells her it's okay and says he's glad she had the courage to speak up. Anju places her hand on Sato's head and asks why he's being so nice. She notices the girl still looks uneasy and explains that she and Sato know each other and that this whole situation was the molester's fault. Still worried, the girl asks if there's anything more Anju can do. Anju jokingly asks if she should beat the man up some more. The girl says that won't be necessary, even though part of her wanted to see it. Anju reassures her that Sato won't be angry. Sato confirms this. Inuyama jokes that Sato is only forgiving her because she's pretty. The girl nervously offers to pay for the trouble, but Anju cuts her off, saying she'll be the one comforting Sato. She tells the others to take the man to the police. On the train afterward, Anju sits next to Sato, slightly annoyed. Sato apologizes for making her stay so long, but she says she doesn't mind. She's just upset because the police officer scolded her for going too far. Takashi Seto comments that Anju's flying kick was a bit excessive. Still serious, he apologizes again and says that if he had been brave from the start, none of this would have happened and she wouldn't have needed to step in. Anju isn't even listening. She suddenly calls out Sato's name. When he looks at her, she points at a stain on her shirt. Sato panics and feels embarrassed, thinking it's his fault. Anju laughs and says she's just joking. Then she hugs him. Sato becomes extremely flustered, his face turning bright red. Anju tells him not to worry and says everything will be okay. Smiling, she says this serious side of him is really cool. She asks if he wants to do something fun. He refuses, saying he needs to study, and she mocks him for it. At school, Anju suddenly shouts Sato's name and jumps on him inside an empty classroom. They both fall to the floor. Sato asks what's going on, but she covers his mouth and tells him to stay quiet. Moments later, someone walks past the classroom calling Anju's name. After the person leaves, Anju sighs in relief. Sato asks if that was the school counselor and what she did this time. With a mischievous grin, Anju admits she put a lizard in his bag and he found it. Sato is shocked and asks why she would do that. He stops himself mid-sentence and says he's not involved and wants to leave. Anju moves closer and says that since he's hiding with her, he's now her accomplice. Later, Sato worries that this means he's now responsible for organizing preparations for the sports festival. As two boys leave, they tell Sato all he needs to do is make pom-poms because they're busy. Sato tries to argue, but they say he's the class president and should handle it. He realizes he has no choice. While he's working, Anju enters the room and says she finally found him. She asks if he's free. Sato says no, explaining he has to prepare for the sports event. Confused, Anju asks if it's really his job and if it's even fun. He says it's not, but he still has to do it. Sucking on her lollipop, Anju tells him to forget about it and come with her. He refuses. Ignoring him, she covers his mouth and says he's coming with her anyway, then drags him down the hallway. They enter a small room where food is being prepared. Toyota notices Anju and says she took a long time. Anju thanks them for waiting. Confused, Sato asks what's going on. Anju explains that this used to be an old club room, but now they're using it to make hot pot. Sato is shocked and says they can't do that at school. Anju asks if he hasn't realized yet that they can do whatever they want, as long as they don't get caught. Tired of his hesitation, she tells him to sit down and eat. Looking at the pot, Sato notices it looks really good. He sits down, wondering why he was invited. Toyota feels cool and confident, while Cheetah feels mysterious. Sato doesn't feel like he belongs. Toyota asks if Anju likes hot pot. Anju says she always makes it to comfort someone. She adds that today is a party to cheer Sato up after his bad luck on the train. Confused, Sato eats and says it tastes great. Toyota says it's her specialty. Toyota then asks how far Anju and Sato have gone. Anju casually says they haven't done anything yet. Sato wonders why she added yet. Toyota comments that they already act very close. Sato says that kind of closeness only exists between people who are dating. Anju teases him, asking if that means he wants to be close to her if they were dating. They start bickering, with Sato trying to defend himself while Anju keeps teasing. Toyota finds it cute. Cheetah suddenly says that Sato doesn't seem genuinely interested in someone like Anju. Sato is left speechless. He starts overthinking what someone like Anju even means, then decides to stop thinking and just eat. By accident, Sato knocks over his hot pot bowl. It crashes to the floor. He rushes to clean it up, apologizing. As he crouches down, Anju asks if he's okay. Startled, Sato lets out a high-pitched scream, causing Anju to spill hot pot onto his lap. Everyone freezes. Toyota asks if Anju is okay. Sato apologizes again. Cheetah bluntly says Anju should take off her clothes to dry them. Later in the hallway, Sato walks wearing only a shirt and a towel around his waist. His uniform is with Anju. She laughs and asks if he's really going home like that. She apologizes for taking his clothes, but Sato says it was his fault and asks if she's okay. Toyota also checks on her. Anju says she's fine. The soup wasn't hot, but her clothes were soaked, so she had to change into Sato's uniform, which was embarrassing. Sato looks at her and gets nervous, thinking she looks beautiful. Suddenly, he remembers he still hasn't finished the pom-poms. If you enjoy my videos, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps more than you think. And if you'd like to support me further, consider joining my Patreon. I'm not making much from the channel at the moment, so every bit of support truly means a lot. You'll get ad-free videos and shoutouts as a thank you for helping me keep this going. Now, back to the video. Later, his uniform is returned after being washed in the gym. Kamaki, the school nurse, tells the class representatives they'll be receiving emergency training and must listen carefully to the firefighter. They're told to take it seriously. The firefighter asks everyone to pair up and decide who will rescue and who will be rescued. Kamaki notices Sato alone and asks why. He explains the others were busy and sent him instead. Feeling bad for him, Kamaki offers to pair with him. The firefighter tells the rescuers to check if their partners are conscious. Sato lies on the floor. Kamaki asks if he's okay. He says he's not sure. He asks if they shouldn't switch roles, but Kamaki says no. She enjoys being the rescuer. Sato thinks she's strange. Suddenly, someone kneels beside him. It's Anju. She says the training looks fun. Kamaki asks if she wants to take her place. Excited, Anju agrees and Kamaki moves on. Anju says Sato looks sad. The firefighter explains that if the person is unconscious, they must check for breathing by listening near the nose and watching the chest. Following instructions, Anju brings her ear close to Sato's face and watches his chest. Sato is painfully aware of how close she is and feels extremely embarrassed. They lock eyes. Anju calmly says he's not breathing and that she needs to perform a more serious check. With that, Anju places her hand on Takashi Sato's chest to check if he's breathing. Sato panics and asks what she's doing. He tells her to take it seriously. The firefighter explains that if a person isn't breathing, they must perform chest compressions. He then lies down and says Sato is right, so he should demonstrate chest compressions on him instead. Sato freezes. He's never done CPR before and doesn't know what to do. The firefighter tells him they need to act properly and push firmly with both hands in the center of the chest. Sato hesitates. Anju suddenly grabs his hand and pulls it to the middle of her chest. Startled, Sato shouts, asking what she's doing. Anju calmly says she's just placing his hand in the correct spot for CPR. Sato completely loses it, but Anju tells him to take it seriously. At that moment, the firefighter announces that they'll soon be learning mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Sato panics even more. Smiling, Anju tells him to do his best. Sato wonders if she's messing with him. He thinks about how people might tease him later, but decides to focus. He tells himself this is just training. He prepares by holding air in his lungs and opening the victim's mouth. As he leans closer, Anju suddenly calls his name and says, "This is starting to feel like a date." Caught off guard, Sato hurriedly says, "That's not true." Anju laughs at how red his face is. Kamaki approaches and tells them they're talking too much. She then notices Sato's nose bleeding and tells him to go to the infirmary. Sometime later, Sato lies on the infirmary floor next to Anju, a cloth over his eyes and a plug in his nose. Anju jokes and asks if he's still alive. She teases him, saying that for him to get a nosebleed, he must have gotten way too excited. She continues teasing, saying that if he reacts like this when she actually needs help, she won't be able to rely on him to save her. Sato sits up, adjusts his glasses, and says that might be true, but if something serious really happened, he would focus and do his best to help. Anju looks impressed. She lightly punches his chest and suddenly goes quiet. Sato notices something feels off and asks if he did something wrong. She says no, but now he has to walk her home. Sato realizes she's flustered, but she quickly denies it. At the gym, the sports tournament has already started. Sato appears with an ice pack on his cheek and a nasal plug. He's in the infirmary with Kamaki, who tells him to be more careful so he doesn't get hit by a ball again. Sato says he was just tired. Kamaki says she knows he's bad at sports, even if he makes excuses. Sato insists he really was tired because he stayed up all night making pom-poms. Sato leaves the infirmary, still holding the ice pack, thinking he can't deny that he's bad at sports. Suddenly, Anju appears and crouches down near him while grabbing a bottle of water from the vending machine. She drinks some, then notices him and asks if he's okay. Sato gets nervous. and can't respond. Anju tosses him the water bottle and says he can drink if he wants. Even though he's thirsty, Sato hesitates, realizing this would be an indirect kiss. Anju teases him, asking if he really cares about something so silly. Sato says he doesn't and drinks the water. Anju jokingly says she's never had an indirect kiss before, then laughs at how flustered he is. Sato tells her to stop teasing him. They sit together by the vending machine. Anju says he's unlucky for getting hit by a stray ball. Sato feels embarrassed. She asks what he's playing next, but he says he's just gonna watch. Anju gets upset and says that's not fair, so she'll skip playing too. Sato tells her he's not skipping, he's just injured. Anju suddenly asks if there will be a reward if she plays well. Sato says no, since participating is mandatory. Anju fixes her hair. Two boys approach the vending machine without noticing them. They talk about a guy with glasses who got hit by a ball and how pathetic he looked. Sato realizes they're talking about him and feels embarrassed. While he's distracted, Anju links her pinky finger with his and says they've made a pinky promise. If he's lying, he'll have to deal with her. She loudly declares there's no backing out now. This motivates her even more. She says if she does her best and wins, he has to reward her. During the volleyball match, Anju gives it everything she has. She dives, jumps, and delivers powerful serves. The crowd is impressed. Even Sato watches in awe, thinking how incredible she is. The match ends with Anju's victory. Afterwards, she approaches Sato and says it's time to claim her reward. Sato gets nervous, but she simply grabs the water bottle and takes a sip. She laughs and says she's finally had her first indirect kiss. She thanks him for the water. Sato can't stop thinking about it for the rest of the day. Back in the classroom, the teacher announces that, with the championship over, test week starts today. Club activities are canceled, and everyone must study seriously if they want to enjoy summer vacation. Sato realizes he hasn't studied much lately and will need to work twice as hard. Anju leans closer and asks why he's already packing up. Sato asks if she's ready for the tests. She casually says, not really. Sato tells her she should go home and study. She leans back in her chair and asks if that's how it's going to be, saying he should take responsibility. Sato looks confused. Later, at a fast food restaurant, Anju laughs as she shows Sato her test scores. Takashi Sato asks if those scores are from the midterms. Anju says yes, and adds that the next exams will probably be even harder. If she does badly, she'll have to attend remedial classes. Sato quickly realizes what she wants. She basically wants him to tutor her so she won't have to take those extra classes. Anju confirms it, saying that while she could skip them, it would be really annoying. As payment, she offers him some of the fries she bought. Sato refuses. He says that his own grades are also at risk. To convince him, Anju suggests that if he helps her, they can spend time together during summer vacation. Sato thinks about her offer for a moment, then finally agrees to help her a little. Anju cheers happily. He starts teaching her math, but soon notices that she's slumped over the table. Anju complains that she can't take it anymore. Sato points out that only 15 minutes have passed. Ignoring him, she suddenly asks what he would do if he won 300 million yen. Sato tells her they shouldn't be daydreaming right now. She rests her head on her hand and complains that studying is too boring, then starts doodling in her notebook. Sato gets nervous, unsure what to do. Anju notices and asks what's wrong. He says she seemed a little vulnerable. Smiling, she says she noticed, and pokes him under the table while offering him fries. Sato jumps in surprise and asks what she's doing, but she ignores him and says there's no helping it. She holds out a fry and says if he eats it, she'll feel more motivated. Sato hesitates and asks why. Disappointed, Anju says that at this rate, she's going to fail because of him. Sato realizes she's just teasing again. Anju calls him childish for being so shy. In the end, Sato gives in and takes the fry. As soon as he does, he gets nervous again because she's so close. Anju laughs at him. Frustrated, Sato says that if she keeps teasing him like that, he won't stay any longer. She immediately apologizes. Sato tells her that whether she has to take extra classes or not, she'll have to study anyway. Anju replies that if she fails, she won't be able to do what she wants. Sato says that for him, there's nothing special he wants to do during summer vacation, but he still needs to do his best, just in case. He believes that chasing dreams starts with studying seriously. Realizing he's talking too much, he apologizes. Anju observes that he's very hardworking, and that's his greatest strength. She decides she should do her best too. Then she smiles and says, this means he'll be able to spend as much time with her as he wants during summer vacation. Sato says that's not what he meant, but she tells him he should start thinking about what he wants to do during the break. He agrees. In the classroom, Anju turns around after passing her test forward and asks Sato if he's okay. He's wearing a mask and says he is. The teacher notices them talking and tells them to stop and pass the tests along. Sato places his hand on his head, wondering why he had to get sick on such an important day. He accidentally drops his eraser, bends down to pick it up, and suddenly blacks out. Sato collapses onto the floor. Anju panics and calls his name, asking if he's okay. Sometime later, in the school infirmary, Sato slowly wakes up. His temperature is 38.6 degrees Celsius. Nurse Kamaki tells him he has a fever and won't be able to take the test like this. Exhausted, Sato apologizes for causing trouble, but Kamaki lightly smacks him on the head with a thermometer and tells him not to be stupid. She says he's pushing himself too hard and ignoring his limits. Sato insists it's his duty as class president to take care of his classmates. Ignoring that, Kamaki orders him to rest and leaves to contact his parents. Lying in bed, Sato wonders why he's like this. While everyone else is giving their all on the test, he's stuck here. Suddenly, someone climbs onto his bed. It's Anju, smiling brightly. She announces that she's arrived. Startled, Sato asks what she's doing here. She says he looked cold, so she came to warm him up, but didn't want to wake him. Noticing his fever and sweat, she places her cold hands on his face and forehead. She even suggests he take off his shirt to cool down, but Sato refuses. Anju shows him the many drinks she brought to keep him hydrated. Sato thinks it's a bit excessive. He asks about her test, but she says she told the teacher she needed the bathroom and left. She jokes that when he collapsed, she thought he had died. Sato tells her it's nothing serious. Sitting on the bed, Anju says she's relieved he's okay. Embarrassed, Sato tries to get up, saying he needs to take the test. Anju grabs him and tells him to rest. He struggles, saying the only thing he's good at is studying. He has no goals, thinks he's slow, always stuck with the worst tasks, and always causes trouble. Anju tries to stop him, but Sato keeps going. He says the only thing he can do is work hard, and he hates himself for saying all this. Tears start to fall. In one quick motion, Anju pulls him back onto the bed and stares straight at him. She tells him to shut up and stop insulting the boy she likes so much. Before he can respond, she places her hands on his face and tells him to sleep. She says she'll finish the test after he's asleep. Until then, she'll stay by his side. Feeling the cool comfort of her hands, Sato slowly drifts off. Kamaki later returns, apologizing for the delay. She couldn't reach his parents, so she decides to take him home herself. Looking at Sato sleeping peacefully, she notes that he looks much better than before. Back in the classroom, Anju stares at Sato's empty seat with a sad expression. Toyota notices and says she's unusually quiet without Sato around. She asks if Anju is really that worried about him, and whether she really likes him. Anju doesn't know how to answer. She remembers a time when Sato asked her to hand in her homework. She told him it had nothing to do with him, but he replied that as class president, it was his job. Later, two boys told Sato they were leaving cleaning to him again. When Anju asked why he didn't just ignore them, he said that if no one cleaned, everything would stay dirty. She asked why it always had to be him. Then she asked if he would do her homework if she told him to. Sato nervously said he'd help if she needed it, because if she didn't turn it in, the teacher would have trouble. After hearing that, Anju finally gave in and said that if that was the case, she wanted his help. Later in the classroom, Takashi Seto explains math to Anna Anju. She says it's easy to understand and tells him he's a good teacher. Sato replies that he doesn't know everything, but Anju doesn't seem to care. She thanks him for helping her anyway. Then she says that since she's dumb, homework is too hard. Sato tries to say he doesn't think that's true, but she cuts him off and tells him not to flatter her. He insists he isn't doing that, but she laughs and teases him, making him flustered. She asks why he's getting so nervous. Sato points out that she has a stain on her shirt. Anju laughs and asks if he can clean it for her. Sato says no, but she keeps insisting and moves closer. Finally, Sato says that he only wants to be that close to a girl he loves and has been with for a long time. Anju goes quiet for a moment, surprised by his honesty. Then she laughs and says she was just messing with him. While washing her hands in the girl's bathroom, Anju thinks about Sato. He isn't just shy, he's awkward. Looking at herself in the mirror, she wonders if he doesn't like her because she isn't his type. She quickly tells herself she doesn't care about that. As she walks down the hallway, she overhears someone arguing with Sato. It's the boys from earlier, complaining that he didn't clean because he was with her. They ask what he even sees in her, and suggest she's doing favors for him. One of them mocks Anju, comparing her to a worthless cup. Anju is shocked by what they're saying, but Sato stays calm. He tells them that to him, she's unique in her own way. He adds that if she's important to him, he would choose her. Hearing this, Anju is completely stunned. She steps into the room, walks past the boys, and goes straight to Sato. She asks if he really has the nerve to call someone a cup. The boys fall silent. Leaning against his desk, Sato can't say a word as Anju holds his face in her hands. She asks if he wants to walk her home today and says she'll reward him for helping with her homework. Sato insists it was just a hypothetical situation. Still holding his face, she tells him he can choose a different reward if he wants. He says it isn't necessary. Suddenly, Anju asks him his name again, teasing him. Later, Toyota asks Anju why she seems so happy around Sato. Anju says that when she's with him, it feels like she's being rewarded. Toyota asks if she sees him like a dog, but Anju says no. She just always has fun with him, and that's her way of showing it. Toyota says it's boring without Sato around and hopes he comes back soon. The teacher reminds everyone that even though summer vacation is starting, they need to behave responsibly and will meet again next semester. Sato thinks about how worried he was about missing his tests, but things seem to be working out. Still, he worries about Anju and hopes she didn't fail because of him. Later, Anju grabs Sato's arm while talking to a staff member and asks if she can do extra work with him. She says that if she can, she'll do her best. The staff member asks if Sato is okay with it, leaving him confused. The two end up cleaning a classroom together. Anju says she's close to repeating a year, but extra cleaning will help her chances. She complains about the heat. Sato explains it's because the room is closed. She apologizes for making him help, but Sato says he doesn't mind. He actually likes cleaning. Still, he wonders if he's the reason she's struggling and feels responsible. While cleaning the girls' locker room, Sato gets nervous and hopes no one left anything behind. He panics when he spots something on the floor, but Anju picks it up. It's just a forgotten headband. She teases him for getting worked up over nothing. Because of the heat, Anju adjusts her clothes and stretches. Sato gets flustered. She asks if he wants to cool off, and they head to the pool area. Sato worries someone will see them, but Anju tells him to relax. She puts her feet in the water and complains that it's cold. Sato says they should finish cleaning and leave, but she insists they've worked hard enough. He worries they could get expelled, but Anju doesn't care. Sato admits he doesn't want to cause her more trouble and asks if the cleaning is because she failed her tests. Anju walks over to him and says it has nothing to do with him. She explains that she was late too many times, but thanks to Sato's help, she actually did well on the tests. Relieved, Sato realizes it wasn't his fault. Anju is shocked that he blamed himself at all. She tells him to stop worrying so much and says it's okay to misbehave sometimes. Holding his hand, she suddenly throws herself backward into the pool, pulling him in with her. Sato panics, asking what she's doing. Anju laughs and asks if he can't swim and whether he isn't having fun. Still holding his hand, she says that during summer vacation, they should do lots of bad things together. Sato blushes, embarrassed just from holding hands. Later, after getting out of the pool, she teases him about how it feels different without gloves. That night, Sato talks on the phone with Inuyama, who rambles about shoulders being attractive. Sato hangs up, exhausted by the conversation, and goes back to studying. He receives a message from Anju, a picture of her with a kitten. She says it's hot. Confused but agreeing, Sato replies. She then asks if he wants to get ice cream. Late at night, they meet at a convenience store. Anju is wearing light casual clothes, and Sato notices her exposed shoulder, remembering Inuyama's words. She hands him sparklers, surprising him. They go to a quiet park, sit on swings, eat popsicles, and light the sparklers. Anju laughs, saying this is fun. She tells Sato to relax and stop worrying so much. When popsicle drips onto her arm, she wipes it off easily, shocking him. She jokingly offers her arm to him, teasing him. Sato gets nervous and says that's going too far. Suddenly, Anju slips off the swing. Before she falls, Sato grabs her arm and steadies her. She thanks him. Sato realizes he's holding her shoulder and blushes deeply, surprised by how soft her skin feels. That night, he can't sleep, unable to stop thinking about it.
Please!
Subscribe.
I need this! My mom is kind of homeless.